And good morning, everyone. Our Golden Knights training camp bulletin presented by Station Casinos from Summerlin Hospital Rink right here at City National Arena, downtown Summerlin, as the Golden Knights, along with the rest of the NHL, getting closer and closer to heading towards the hub cities. Of course, Edmonton in the west and Toronto in the east. And for the Golden Knights, they'll be headed to Edmonton on Sunday. Dave Gosher along with Shane Knighty. So glad that you could join us here on all of our social media platforms. And Shane, this is it's getting more and more exciting by the day. Shane was all excited. I walked into the Golden Knights executive offices today, and Shane had a bevy of things to talk about, and especially considering, the league has released a lot of information, Shane, over the last 24 hours, and a lot of info about what this bubble is going to look like in Edmonton and in Toronto.
It's terrific. I think they took on a massive task here, and Gary Bettman, they were on a Zoom call with the media saying this is probably the most elaborate thing they put together. But I am excited about this. This is what it's going to look like for the broadcast. Here's a kind of example inside the lighting they're using, the cameras. They released everything. So both are in Edmonton. Sportsnet will be looking after the world feed. It'll be NBC out of Toronto. So all our Vegas Golden Knights viewers will get the feed from Edmonton. The things they're doing, they're going to have 32 cameras in the building, Dave. That's 12 more than a normal broadcast. They're repositioned for optimal coverage. They got, I got to say that I think it's a JITA cam, which they can set in the stands because there's no fans, that will follow above the ice, with the ice. You kind of see it in football, right? Yeah. The zoom. So that's going to give a new look at the game. Also new camera angles. They're going to put in EA Sports supplemental crowd noise. You're going to get sounds of the game. There's going to be a 5-second delay, but you're going to hear slap shots. You're going to hear hits, the sounds. You're going to hear the chatter, whether it's on the bench or whether it's Ryan Reeves chirping the opposition. It's really going to take you inside. And also, you're going to have the goal horn, the Vegas goal horn, the Golden Knights score, their goal song. They're going to have pump-up videos, not only from the players, but from the fans. Chants, the Go Knights Go, hearing that in the building. I think they've done a tremendous job at setting this up. I know both of us are excited just to call games in general, but I think this is going to be, in difficult times, you can learn a lot, and I think a lot of good things are going to come out of this, some new looks at the game, and it's going to be great for the sport.
And I think one of the nice things they did too, Shane, and the creative thing is that every game is going to look unique and different, right? The Golden Knights game against the Blues, they're going to use the LED screens a certain way, certain lighting, certain audio, certain video. You might watch a game between Boston and Toronto, we'll say, the next game, and it's going to look even different. So, no fans. How do you utilize all this space in empty arenas? That's how the NHL is going to go about doing it.
Well, and I think when they looked at it, because it took so long, that they looked at this as a chance to see, okay, we can get creative here. Because, without fans, that allows you to add the 12 cameras, to give you different viewing angles, to really try some new things that might stick here going forward as we hopefully can put fans back in the seats. But it's going to be a great viewing experience. This is, we know we're excited. I think everybody's excited to see sports back on TV, which we've started with baseball, but now hockey in this tournament style, and now to see what they're going to do. Dave, get those pipes ready to call games. Let's go.
Warm up the vocal cords.
They said that a lot of that won't be implemented for the exhibition game. So this will all start August 1 when they get into the play-in rounds and the round-robin seeding. So excited to see how this is going to unfold.
We invite you to send in your questions. Of course, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. And we will get to as many of those as we can. Gary Lawless is going to join us a little bit later. There's a conference call that was still going on when we came over to the studios with Gary Bettman, Bill Daly, Stephen Walcom, among others, Chris King, Colin Campbell, because obviously we're on the precipice of these teams heading into the bubble over the next.
That's a big word.
Precipice. That's only a 3-syllable, but I don't use it much. Use it in what do you say? Spell it. Say it. Use it in a sentence.
Yes.
I don't know how to spell it. But
I thought you might have with a word of the day toilet paper or something.
I'll pick some up on the way home. But please send us in your questions, comments. Of course, you're looking at Summerlin Hospital Rink here at City National, courtesy of the Next Gen Cam. The Golden Knights starting to make their way out onto the ice. And as we said, before you know it, they will be on their way to Edmonton. Thomas on Facebook wanted to know, Shane, Very nice, nice of you to ask, Thomas. How was your birthday yesterday, Dave? Subpar. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was terrific. We had a nice dinner with some people. Maybe even the guy sitting to my left may have joined. It was a small crowd. You can't go more than 6, right? You know, you have to keep it small during these times. So, but no, we had a nice dinner, and Shane got me a couple of presents, which were very nice. It was terrific.
He's well looked after.
Yes, it was great. Laura in Santa Barbara watching on YouTube. So thanks for tuning in, Laura, as well. What I thought was cool, Shane, as we continue to, and we'll get to as many questions as we can, is, you know, like you mentioned, the personalized, like, goal songs, you know, for each team. They'll have, for instance, you know, every team submitted certain, you know, what their theme is in arena, right? You'll have the Go Knights Go chant when the Golden Knight, you know, at times during the games. I thought it would be cool, you know, like in baseball, where players have their own, like, walk-up music to the plate. I think it'd be cool if players could have their own personalized goal song.
We may get to that.
That would be awesome.
You may see different things come out of this as they continue to experiment. But
what would yours be?
What would mine be? I used to listen to, like, Eminem "Till I Collapse" was kind of my last warm-up song. I can think of that. I love coming out to AC/DC Back in Black when we played in Boston. That was kind of, you know, we came out to that song as a team. Individual. I know you probably have one. You Springsteen or something.
I might. You know what I thought would be cool? Toby Keith. How do you like me now?
How do you like me now?
That would be a good one.
That's good. That's good. You can add a few in there.
Yeah, that would be a good one. But yeah, I mean, you know, and full marks to the NHL for, look, unprecedented times, but also an unprecedented opportunity for them to be able to make this really, you know, a made-for-TV event, and that's what it's going to be. And, you know, Gary Lawless is going to join us a little bit later on, but one of the things that's pretty cool about the bubble is that they're also going to have, you know, dedicated lounges for the players, right? They want to hang around, watch hockey from morning, noon, and night when they're not playing.
So I believe they got. So you're going to have, like, coaches' rooms. You're going to have meeting rooms. You're going to have a VIP room. That's for each team. They've set up a bunch of restaurants, bunch of pop-up restaurants. I think in Edmonton there's up to 14, and I know Gary's going to talk about this a little bit more, how that's set up, how the health protocol, security. They've set up the fencing around all these hotels. And I remember going back, talking, and we were saying, how do they do this? And we threw the word, they've got to create a bubble. Well, that's what they're calling it now, hub cities, but it's these bubbles they've created to make sure everyone and the health protocol is at the best it can possibly be. But there's going to be, the interesting thing, Dave, is you're putting players that are going to battle one another in the same hotels, and I'm interested in the interaction. I think I heard a coach, they had some comments, and a coach said 20 years ago, you probably see fist fights in the lobby. I don't think we're going to see that, but I don't think you're going to see a lot of fist bumps or anything like that. It might be, if you see an opposing player from the other team, might be the head down walk, no eye contact, go by. But that's all part of it. I think these guys are professionals. They understand, going into these bubbles. We've heard and read throughout the league here in Vegas what they need, essentials for individual guys, Xbox, PlayStations. Certainly the gaming comes up a lot. But I think iPads, computers, books, John Merrill, adult coloring book, which was maybe the most unique answer I've heard. But hey, whatever it is to pass the time. And it's a great bonding experience. Guys they're going to have that VIP room, and that's not something new. When I played, we always had our rooms, but we always had a common room. There was a big room where guys could go play cards, you could just hang out, you could watch other games. It's great to really, continue to bond. Guys love hanging out with one another. So, when you're away from the game, you can kind of sit back and relax together.
Well, it'll be, obviously a unique experience when all these teams get at it, and it'll be happening before you know it. Some of the amenities in the bubble, so you've got movie theaters, tennis, basketball, ping pong, pickleball, 15 different workout facilities.
50. They all got 15. Individual team workout.
Which is fantastic. But anything they could think of, in I think they've tried to think of here, and it's not going to be perfect, and obviously they're going to have to adjust on the fly perhaps a little bit, but the parameters they have set out are pretty awesome as they move forward into Phase 4.
It's an unbelievable job that, and heavy task to put this all together. And we talked about it a lot, not only setting up these hub cities, these bubble, but the ability they extended the CBA in there. There's negotiations, so you wonder how they had time to do all this, but it took a huge amount of people and a large amount of them putting in the time to make this work, and we're only a few days away now from this team leaving. And as we take a look on the ice, this is the time. It's been a great pace to this training camp, but now you start to get antsy. You need to play games. It's all right. It's been great practicing, getting ready, reviewing all the systems, going over. I know yesterday they worked a lot on their neutral zone. They did some special team scrimmage. I think they've done a real good job of covering all the bases here and what they wanted to do to ramp up to be prepared to play a game. Now you're at the point where let's just play already as they get set to leave Sunday.
And it's been, to your point, Shane, obviously training camp, but it's been really 6 weeks if you think back, right? I mean, Phase 1, Phase 2, this is Phase 3. Had a look there at Nate Schmidt a moment ago. Stormy was telling us yesterday, Nate is the director of the fund committee. No surprise.
When they go into the bubble. There's a shock.
Yeah, that's how would he ever get that role? He's not many bad days in his life. There's a look at number 88. Couple of questions, Shane. Let's see here. Any update on Max Pacioretty? Is he out there? I don't know. I haven't seen him out there yet.
Well,
we'll keep an eye out for him.
We'll keep an eye.
We'll scan the ice and see if we can find him. But obviously, he's missed the past few days. We should note again, Pete DeBoer did say he expected that Max would skate before they head to the bubble, but
they don't really have a game till August 3rd.
Right. Preseason July 30th, but the game that counts.
Game that counts, and still those 3 games. So there's still a lot of time here, and from what reports I mentioned, he might skate. So I don't anticipate it's anything serious.
Here's a question. Well, first off, a statement. Happy birthday, Robin Leonard. His birthday's today? Day after mine? That's awesome. How old's Robin? Do we know that off the cuff? Anybody?
29? That's my guess.
29? Sure. Sounds good. Happy birthday to Robin.
Oh,
there he is. There's
100 points for Shane.
There's the Panda. And Shane on the board for 20. Patrick wants to know, Shane, who will be the fourth-line center?
I think it's going to be Nick Cousins.
Yep.
That was the look early in camp. That's provided they're at full health. Nick Cousins, I believe, will center between Carrier and Reeves on that fourth line. And it was interesting. I was listening coming in, and Brian Burke, who we know, he was on radio series NHL, and they asked him about some players at the deadline that he thinks are going to be, impactful for a team. And his first answer was Nick Cousins. He thought that was a great pickup, and I agree. I think Nick Cousins, he can play up and down your lineup. He's got an edge to his game. He can agitate, but he's also got some real good offensive skills. So a guy that'll be, add to the fourth line, or if you need be, can move anywhere throughout your lineup.
Interesting as well, Shane, and Dan had this note yesterday. I think I have it right. The last 19 games before the pause, 16 or 19. I think it was 19. Pete DeBoer started his fourth line, right, to get some energy going. And, of course, that was consisting of Tomas Nosek, Ryan Reeves, and Will Carrier. But for the most part in this training camp, it has been Nick Cousins in the middle of that fourth line. Pardon me, but obviously it's changed here over the last few days without Max Pacioretty on the ice. They have bumped up Nick Cousins to play with William Karlsson and Mark Stone. But we are told no Max Pacioretty.
No, so
once again.
Well, and interesting, you got Cousins and Karlsson. You got 2 centers on that line. You got Stevenson and Waugh, 2 centers on that line. So it gives a little more depth at the center position.
They are a center-heavy team, if you think about it. There's no lack of centers on this club.
It's interesting, the old kind of cliche to say you build your team down the middle.
There's a look at Pete DeBoer. Of course, he and his team will be headed to Edmonton here coming up on Sunday. So some more check-ins, Shane, on Facebook. Mike watching in Spanish Fort, Alabama. Good to hear from you, Mike. Kimberly in North Las Vegas checking in. Hallie in Vegas. Hallie is Vegas-born, living in Chicago, though.
Living in Chicago.
So there you go, Vegas-born, but in the Windy City now. Here's a good question from Thomas. Dave, who's your favorite co-star, Shane or Gary? Stormy.
That's probably the best answer.
That's a tough one to pick. I do get to sit next to Shane every game, and that's a lot of fun. Lisa says, hi, guys. Listening from Summerlin, would you rather be broadcasting from Edmonton, or are you glad to be in Vegas while calling the games? Interesting question and a good one.
It's a real good question.
The only issue is this, and it's just kind of, it would be what would be necessary. It would be great to be in the arena, no question about it. I think that would be our first preference, but that would require us to be in that bubble. And that's a big commitment, right? I mean, you're talking about potentially, if the Golden Knights go all the way or make a long run, a month and a half to 2 months in that bubble in Edmonton. So, and that's not an option for us. So.
No, ideally, yeah, you want to be there. You can see more of the game. You get a feel for it. But, the challenge for us is to do it off monitor here. And I think it's going to be great to do it that way. Still, with all our monitors, we're going to hopefully have a couple of different views. We won't have all 32 camera views.
No, that would be great.
With our setup, but it's one of those things you deal with, and we're gonna do our best to make it as entertaining as we possibly can.
Some more check-ins, Shane. Chris saying hi from Boise. We had, was that 2 years ago?
I was there.
On the road trip. You and I spent a little time, the Golden
I believe
Knights
you
team.
left Boise and I came in there. We
yes,
kinda,
and we had a chance to go over to Boise State, take a tour of the football stadium. Shane threw Dave a beautiful pass for a touchdown.
Quick little slant route by Dave.
Right on the fingertips. I was winded after I after I caught that for a touchdown. Whitney in Virginia, watching on YouTube. Anthony in Montreal. Jordan in British Columbia. Hello to all. And glad that you are tuning in to our training camp bulletin for the VGK. Of course, presented by Station Casinos. And we'll do a little listen in here. The pace picking up a little bit as the Golden Knights push towards heading into the bubble over the weekend. And we'll listen in a little bit to the sights and sounds here, courtesy of the Next Gen Camp. One final practice for the Golden Knights here at Summerlin Hospital Rink at CNA before over the weekend they will head to Edmonton and into the bubble as part of the upcoming 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, 12 teams in the West to Edmonton, 12 teams in the East to Toronto. Gary Lawless is going to join us in a little while to take a little deeper look into what the bubble is going to look like once these teams get there. We've got some good questions here, Shane. Bill on Facebook wants to know, he says, I'm Vegas born and new to hockey. And a good question. He says, teams fight for the puck just to give it away to make a line change. What is the logic in that? Why not maintain possession of the puck while making a line change?
Well, hockey's a very fast game, and there's no set situation. So it's a situational play where ideally you'd love to keep possession, get a fresh change in. Certainly where you are on the ice matters, but there's times you're exhausted and you don't want to turn the puck over. So you battle to get it, put it in an area that's safe where you can get a safe change that's not going to compromise you and give up a chance the other way. So a lot of it depends where the puck is at that time, but you'd love to maintain possession, throw it back to the D, maybe the forwards get a quick change, you change one guy, two guys can go, but that all determines on the situation at that point in time in the game.
So when you're dead tired, that's not possible.
When you're dead
just wanna
tired,
get off the ice.
Sometimes, when you're tired physically, mentally, you get a little lapse every now and then. So you want to make the smart play, get to the bench and allow fresh legs to get on the ice.
Another question, Shane, from Stephanie says, thanks, Dave and Shane, for doing such a great job with the practices. Our pleasure. What are you both looking forward to the most in the playoffs?
Games.
Hockey, morning, noon, and night.
Hockey, I'm looking forward to just the whole format. Well, first and foremost, the Golden Knights games that we'll be calling. That's what we're used to doing. I'm excited to get back to call hockey. But just the overall tournament style, the hockey from morning to the end of the day, 6 games, I believe, beginning. It's, the ability to watch all of this unfold, seeing what they're going to do, implement for the TV viewing experience. A lot of things to learn, adapt, but overall, it's just hockey. What about you?
Same. Well, yeah, and I think, as you say, the volume of games, right?
Volume of games.
Every day, especially early, you're looking at 5 and 6 games a day, and then, then the intent. I think it's going to be fascinating too, Shane, to see how quickly the intensity ramps up right off the bat. Maybe not so much in the exhibition game, fair enough, but you get into those round robins, and there is something to play for. And there's no round robin for teams 5 through 12 in each conference, right? They're right into it. They've got an exhibition game, and then I don't know when the last time they played a best out of 5 in the National Hockey League. You could go back to probably the mid '80s, maybe, where they used to play best of 5 in the early rounds.
Well, and that's for those teams you mentioned, that exhibition game. So Arizona, they go right from that into a best of 5, and mentioning throughout this, talking about it, how important it is for teams to, be able to start at their best as quick as possible, get to their game. It's going to be even more imperative for those teams that won exhibition and, in the best of 5, it's not a lot of room for mistake.
No, it can happen quickly. And then we should mention, and it was asked yesterday, but probably worth repeating, the value of that round robin. It's not the be-all, end-all, but there is value to it. And if you finish first in that round robin tournament, you're the top seed in the East or in the West. So just because Boston in the East and St. Louis in the West were the top teams in their respective conferences at pause, the only way that would factor in is if there's to break the tie, right? To go back to winning percentage. But again, not the be-all, end-all, but the league, I think, wanted to make that round robin have some value, right? And I think the teams wanted that. Don't just go through the motions for an exhibition game and then 3 more games before you get to the playoffs to try to get back to the intensity of what games are going to be like, and especially ramping up for the playoffs.
And it allows those teams, they do want to win. You want to get the highest seed possible, but there's a little more room for error if there's parts of your games that just aren't there yet. Allows you a little more time to get to it before you get to the first round of playoffs.
Drew has a question, Shane, coming from a football background. Interesting. Can you explain what usually goes on in training camps?
Well, usually guys train all summer, and camp is it's a lot shorter. Usually 3 days. They go in, There's a lot of video, so guys will go over video systems. There's a lot more players. You have a lot of your prospects, your guys from your minor league affiliate, your guys you've drafted that you want to take. There's more evaluation in a normal training camp because you get into preseason games very, very quickly now. Camp is 3-4 days long, and then you're into preseason games where those early games you give a lot of the younger players trying to make the team or guys you want to take a look at and evaluate a chance to play early on, and then you progress as you go along, and more of the veteran players get in, and it's usually about 7 games in a preseason. So in a normal training camp, the camp is quick. You get to the preseason games, obviously you practice throughout, and then the numbers go down as camp goes along, and you get closer and closer to the team you want to take into the regular season, and you ramp up from that. It's usually around that first week in September to week and a half, and then you're playing games usually by October 4th in around there.
First week. Yep. Amazing how it's all changed though, right? Back there was a time, and now these guys, quite honestly, are finely tuned machines.
Yeah, it's the
There used to be a time where camp was longer, right? And you would get in shape in camp.
Yeah, the guys came to camp to get into shape.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Teams used to fly all over the place to play. I distinctly remember way back when, not when I was doing the games in Boston, but before that, the Bruins would play, they'd fly to LA and play the Kings in an exhibition game. Like it was, now my memory probably would be it might have been at the end of the preseason, then they were going to start with a West Coast swing in the regular year, but still, like, it's unheard of that you would do that now. But I'm always amazed, Shane, at how quickly, and you mentioned how quickly they get to games now. The third day of camp, they're playing an exhibition game, usually 1 of 7 or 1 of 8, and I would think from a player standpoint, you'd rather have that, right? Just play the games.
Well, and that's where they're at this point.
Yeah.
Been skating for 6 weeks. They've been in this training camp. You can see they're scrimmaging again. You're trying to, simulate game situations as much as you can at this point. But and as much as we've seen them scrimmage, it's not the same as having that competition against a different opponent, which we're going to see against Arizona here on July 30th.
Right now, a little bit of special teams work for the Golden Knights. It's an area that the Golden Knights, along with everybody else, really, I would imagine, put a focus on here. And, for the Golden Knights, they've talked about the need for their penalty kill to improve. Their goaltending has been great in this camp, both Robin Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury. There have been days we've watched, you don't see a lot of goals scored. They have been that good so far throughout this camp, but a little special teams work right now.
Well, special teams are going to be, I think they're going to be very paramount in these playoffs for teams to have success. Both sides of the puck. Your power play is really going to need to produce. Your penalty kill. We know the Golden Knights. I was certainly mentioned the numbers not where they wanted to be. Pete DeBoer made some changes when he took over the head coaching job. He felt it looked better maybe than the stats showed. But nice goal there. A little play in front as Cousins buries it off a little shot pass from Martinez. So that power play, that's what you want to see from the power play. But the Golden Knights, the penalty kill, I think we're going to see some improvement. They've been able to work on it, continue to here as they get set in this last day to kind of fine-tune things before they head to Edmonton.
Question here from Christopher. How will overtime work in the round robin? Is it the same as regular season or playoffs? It is the same as the regular season. In the round robin tournament, so in the Golden Knights' first 3 games, the 3 games they're going to play in that round robin, regular season overtime rules. So the overtime, 3-on-3 overtime, and then for 5 minutes, right? And then if nobody scores,
Shootout.
They go to the shootout. And as we mentioned, if there is a tie in the standings in the round robin, they will go back to winning percentage in the regular year to break that tie.
Well, they're trying to keep it shorter for the round robin because you're going to have the play-in series, and we could see a game, Dave, that games are all staggered, but depending if those games go to overtime, it could go on and push some of them back if you have a double overtime in that first game for the play-in rounds. It's going to push back those other games, but they've tried to, look at that situation. And the middle games, the round robin will be shorter to try and make them quick to allow those other games if there is needed time for extra play.
Reminds me at times of you get into some of the NCAA tournaments and teams are waiting around multiple overtimes, be it hockey or basketball or whatever it might be. Somebody on the YouTube wants to talk about how good the trade for Nick Cousins was. The answer would be very good and needed, really, to try to get some scoring and a threat and
Depth.
Depth, to get more depth, which they needed up front.
I like the bite he has. This is a guy, guys stick out. I remember, especially when I'm between the glass for games, that is an agitator that can get to that other team, and he's one of those guys you hate to play against, love to have. I think that really describes Nick Cousins. Him playing, if he's with Reeves and Carrier, I think he can take it to another level. He grows 3 inches playing with Ryan Reeves. He feels 6'5" out there, but I think he's got a lot to his game and his depth. All the moves the Golden Knights made were just so good. You look at Alec Martinez, Robin Leonard, just so important. The Chandler Stevenson one, of course, was earlier, but we know how impactful he was with this team early, especially with the injuries they had and his ability just to move around the lineup. And I think Cousins is similar to Stevenson in a way, as they very versatile players that you can play in the wing, both wings. You can play at center. They can play special teams. So very valuable, and it certainly makes the Golden Knights a much deeper team.
GM Kelly McCrimmon mentioned it at the trade deadline. It is rare that you can fill a need at all 3 positions. At the deadline, they were able to do that. They had Alec Martinez on the back end, of course, Nick Cousins up front, and Robin Leonard in that as well. So terrific job by the Golden Knights and their ability to strengthen this team. Dana wants to know, what do we think of the new Seattle team name? Kraken. The Crack.
It didn't roll off. But I like the whole meaning. I like the jerseys. I like the logo. And it's one of those things, I think it's just going to become part of it. Is it the Kraken or just Kraken?
Well, it's Kraken, but I think, are they going to call them the Kraken? Like the Crack? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I like it. I think they did a great job, and excited to see the growth of the NHL and another team. I played in Seattle when I played junior. The T-Birds used to play there, and it was one of the best atmospheres in Canadian junior hockey. So excited to see the Seattle Kraken join.
That'll even out the league, but it'll be 2 years away, obviously, the fall of 2022. Dan Duva told me it's a fictional, was it a squid?
It's a
mythological.
Yes, creature.
That's
mythological creature.
Mythological creature.
I looked it up
Kraken.
because I wasn't quite sure. The only Kraken I knew about was I think there's a Kraken rum.
Shocking you would know about this. Jordan wants to know, Shane, will the Golden Knights keep Robin Leonard or let him go? I think they would love to keep him. The question is always going to be...
And they got a flat cap
money
coming up. Yeah,
right.
Money's going to be the issue. But certainly, if you're to ask, everybody would love to keep Robin Leonard. It's just, that's where the salary cap comes into play going forward. And, that's one of those things, they're not going to look at. All focus right now is heading into playoffs and trying to win the Stanley Cup.
I got a kick the other day. The Golden Knights have been terrific in terms of doing Zoom calls. Pete DeBoer's done one every day. And as part of the new CBA, great news, I think. I love the fact of NHL guys being in the Olympics. I love the thought of the best players in the world being all in one tournament. And that is part of the new CBA. So in 2022, I believe, is that the next one? Yes, and then in 2026, the NHL will be back there. Mark Stone was asked about that. He has represented Team Canada, not yet in the Olympics, but the World Championships, the World Juniors. And he said, that's really not in my thinking right now. That's for down the road a little bit. But pretty good bet that number 61 would be a part of the next Canadian Olympic team.
Well, Team Canada, you think him. I think Shea Theodore would also certainly be considered for that as we continue to watch his game develop and grow each and every year.
Golden Knights continuing to go through their paces here at City National Arena. I said Gary Lawless is going to join us in a couple of minutes. We're going to take a little deeper look into what this bubble is going to look like. And Gary was listening in on a pretty thorough conference call that was done here by the NHL.
So you expect big things from Gary?
I would hope so. We always do with the Golden Knights Insider. Never disappoints. So he'll be
pressure.
He'll be on here shortly. But again, Shane, just to reiterate, just how exciting it's going to be for us to be part of this, but also the work that the league has done in the way it's going to look with LED screens, stages around the rink.
I went the camera angle, 32 cameras.
Cameras. We usually have 20.
Yeah.
32 now per game.
And of course the look and sound, like
Yeah.
the audio, to hear the sounds, and with that special camera they're going to have, you're going to see the speed of the game, and then you can hear the force of a hit, or you can hear the between the benches, chatter back and forth. Of course, that will be on a 5-second delay, but understandably so.
For some of the broadcasters at a 5-second delay. Hello, self. Team personalized goal songs for each team, goal horns, in-arena music, in-arena videos. Every team, 24 teams, all had their fans replicate kind of their specific chants. So certainly you hear a fair amount of Go Knights Go as well. Right now we're going to go down to ice level, let you listen in a little bit more. The Golden Knights, their final practice here in training camp before heading into the bubble. Of course, you're watching this courtesy of the Next Gen Camp. Our training camp bulletin continuing, presented by Station Casinos. Dave Gosher now joined by our Golden Knights insider Gary Lawless, and of course take a look as well at the Golden Knights, their final ramp up here, Gary, their final practice here before they will head to Edmonton on Sunday, so the final training camp session for the Golden Knights. And we've kind of watched this team slowly but surely, groups of 6, groups of 12, now almost 2 full weeks in the training camp. I would imagine now they're just about ready. All right, let's go. Let's get on the plane. Let's get in the bubble in Edmonton.
Paul Maurice, head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, said yesterday, once the scrimmages lose their pace, they're useless. Yeah. John Tortorella watched his group play in Columbus yesterday, and at the end of it said, "We sucked. Let's go." So in Torts-like fashion.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that you're seeing Pete DeBoer trying to do a few different things, mix the lines up a little bit today, but it's now time to get to the bubble.
Yeah.
So, and in that line of questioning, the Golden Knights will, all teams have to submit their 31 player roster, 28 skaters, 3 goalies. Those rosters must be submitted today by 2 p.m. Pacific. So I think the Golden Knights have made their decisions, but there's probably some moving parts. Max Pacioretty not on the ice today, so could that factor in the decision-making process for Kelly McCrimmon, George McPhee, and Pete DeBoer? I'm not sure.
There's a look at Robin Leonard, of course, celebrating a birthday today. And so we wish Robin a happy birthday. I think he's 29. So, yeah, we're told he's 29. Well, younger than me, who had a birthday yesterday. But interesting, Gary, that the league, with an eye towards the teams heading into the bubble in both Edmonton and Toronto, had a pretty all-inclusive conference call that just completed a little while ago. Gary Bettman, Bill Daly, Stephen Walcom, Steve Mayer, Chris King, Coley Campbell, Dr. Neoweiss, who's kind of been one of the main doctors the league has used in terms of COVID-19. What were some of the the takeaways that, and I guess everyone's curious about testing and how they're going to move forward with that. What were some of the things you took away from that conference?
Yeah, that to me was really interesting. The doctor, first of all, the NHL, they have had no positive tests this week. They've tested all their officials. All the referees came back negative. And the doctor was asked this morning about what if you get a player that tests positive during the event. And he said, we've borrowed our protocols from healthcare because, you're a nurse or a doctor, you go to work and you're working with other people, and there's a potential for spread in those situations. So, obviously, if a player tested positive, they would, remove him and then do contract tracing, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that they've spent a ton of time putting together this plan and this protocol. Gary Bettman has said in the last couple of days that Dr. Anthony Fauci, the infectious disease expert, one of the best in the world, has spoken to them a whole bunch of times. He's availed them of his expertise, and they've talked to him on a number of occasions. So, to me, it's just getting there. And the fact that they haven't had any positive tests this week is a real good sign. And once they get into the bubble, if they're all healthy, my expectation is they'll stay healthy, and from the virus anyways, and they'll be able to pull this off. I think that the plan was great, and I really have to give the players credit that they've social distanced. And we've seen it here in Vegas. You probably haven't seen your favorite Golden Knight at the grocery store lately. They've been coming to the rink and going home, and good for them.
You mentioned, Gary, the no positive tests this week, which is great news. They only had 2 last week, right? And over about 2,600 tests last week. So they're certainly heading in the right direction. We did have a question here a moment ago on Twitch. Are players going to be tested before they fly to Edmonton?
Yes.
Or when they get in the bubble?
All the time.
Every day.
They've been getting tested, every other day or every third day. I'm not sure the exact, a ton of testing here, but yeah, everybody will be getting tested this weekend before they get on that plane. You can't go. You are not allowed to get on the charter unless you have a negative test come back. They don't want anybody going to be in that bubble and have any concerns of that. So, and then once they get there, the testing is daily.
You
daily.
mentioned, you kind of touched on this, but Janice on Facebook wanted to know how many players do they take into the bubble?
Yeah, they're going to take three goalies and 28 skaters.
Yeah, 31 total.
My guess is it'll be 10 defensemen and 18 forwards. And, maybe it'll be 11 and 17 or right around there. But 18 and 10 would be my best guess.
Other notes of interest from this conference call, roster deadline in terms of the postseason. How does all that work?
Today,
Yeah,
2
this is
p.m.
it, 2 p.m.
Yeah, 2 p.m. You got to. They've already submitted the list, or they have to submit the list of 52 that they're going to take. So what they already have is you're allowed. Every organization is allowed 52 people in the bubble, and 31 of those spots are taken up by players. So those that right now they would have 31 player spots, and then the other spots. George McPhee, Kelly McCrimmon, medical staff, coaching staff, training staff, equipment staff, content staff, all those people that are going to go, that list is already submitted, and they've been going through a ton of testing as well this week, and that'll continue through the weekend, and then when they get into the bubble, they'll be tested daily. So a lot of testing going on right now. But yes, at 2 p.m. today, the Golden Knights will submit their list of 31 players.
Owners are not in the bubble.
They can be.
They could be if they wanted to be. They'd
You
have
gotta
to be
be on
as
that-
part of that 52.
You got to be on that 52, and once you're in, you could leave, but no one can replace you. So that would be a waste of a spot. And with only 52, those spots are very, very valuable. Bill Foley has said in the media here in Vegas this week that he is not going to attend. From the beginning, Gary Bettman did say today on the call, they realize Gary Bettman's not going. Gary Bettman and Bill Daly will not be in the bubble to start. They have too much work to do and too many things to do that being in a hotel room all the time, it's just it's better for them to be able to be at their workspaces. By the time they get down to, like I would say, the second round of the playoffs, you're down to 8 teams. So you're starting with 24 teams. And 1,200 people. If you're do the simple math of 24 times 50, that'll be, by the time the second round starts, you're down to 8 teams and 50 people. You're at 400. It's a third of it. I would imagine at that point in time, there will be, and certainly by the time they get to the conference finals, when they're only down to 4. Bettman said, this will evolve. We will make changes as we go here. And he mentioned owners. That's something that we'll want to look at. But they'll have to quarantine. They'll have to go there, and I think that when you go to the bubble, if if a player's wife is having a baby and he leaves the bubble and wants to come back, I believe it's 96 hours. So he would come back into the bubble, go to his room, stay in his room, get tested daily, and after 96 hours, if he was still in a good position and hadn't had a positive test, then he'd be able to circulate with the rest of the group. So I would imagine owners, I'm sure there'll be the teams that are in the Final Four, they're going to want more content people from their organization. If you have a chance to win the Stanley Cup, I would imagine you're going to want to be able to document that story, and if you do win, that's it's the greatest moment in your franchise's history. You're going to want the people that talk and write and photograph and document it to be around. So that means me, Dave.
Yep. Get ready to quarantine for 96 hours. So 4 full days, and if you get through that, you're good to go.
Yeah.
A couple of questions, Gary. Gina wants to know. The employees
Gina.
at the hotels,
Yeah.
restaurants, and other venues, will they remain in the bubble consistently throughout?
Yeah, it's a great question. They will not. And the only hub city that was able to make that offer to the National Hockey League was Las Vegas, because they call that the cruise ship model. Basically, you're on the cruise ship and You stay on the cruise ship until the cruise is over, and that was very expensive. I understand it was a lot more expensive than the options that were the other options. So it's not a pure bubble. There are people that will be coming and going, but those people will be under they'll be temperature checked, they'll be tested, they'll have their own set of the province of Ontario and the province of Alberta want to protect their citizens, and the COVID numbers in Edmonton and Toronto are much lower than unfortunately than the major centers in the United States, and they're going to want to make sure that those people don't bring it into the bubble or bring it out of the bubble. So they'll be tested quite a bit.
Brendan wants to know, Gary, what if players get hurt and they need a player? Well, that's the expanded.
They have an expanded roster.
That's
yeah,
expanded
if you
roster
the American Hockey League is not. There's no other professional league, hockey league in the world operating right now. I don't think that
Right.
anything in Europe or Russia is going right now either. So there's nowhere to get players from. They have to be on that roster. And now, obviously, if there was a situation where I think this will have to be kind of addressed in the moment. If you did get an outbreak and you lost 7 guys, Vegas does have other players under contract that I guess, hopefully we don't get into that type of scenario, but the NHL as Gary Bettman said, this will evolve. They'll react as goes on. But in normal circumstances, the 31 you have there, that's who you deal with.
Fascinating when the league revealed what the bubble's going to look like yesterday.
Yeah,
right?
really cool.
How everything's kind of fenced in, and the amenities and the different hotels that are going to be used, the amount of security people in both bubbles, the players with access to 15 different workout facilities. I knew you like pickleball,
Yeah.
tennis, ping pong, basketball, movie theaters to try to make it, as comfortable and as enjoyable for them as possible. But the NHL laid all that out yesterday, just what this is going to look like.
It's interesting. Some of the people in the conference call were asked about the players. That there's going to be the teams you're playing against are going to be in the same hotel.
Yeah.
You're going to get on the elevator, and they had that only a few people allowed in the elevator at once. But you could get on the elevator, and there could be, Connor McDavid or Duncan Keith or whoever, Jonathan Taves, and will they mingle? And the guys on the call said the feedback we're getting from the players is they have no interest in mingling.
This is not the time to mingle.
Trying
to win the Stanley Cup.
Exactly. That the Stanley Cup is on the line here, and that's what the players have told league management. And we don't need to share a movie theater with the Blackhawks or with the Blues or with whoever. We'll keep to ourselves.
We have never had games in the NHL in July and August. And this is going to go into September and early October. But I know on the conference call they were asked about ice quality and what came out of that.
Well, so it's really interesting. They have had games played here in late June, middle of June,
Right.
in the first season, and you can remember how hot it was at that point in time. Humidity is the true enemy of ice. Heat obviously will melt ice, but you can keep your building cool. But there is a battle to keep humidity out of an arena, and one of the big issues for when the ice maker can get the building perfect at 9 in the morning when there's no one in the building, and it can keep it that way right up until game time or prior to game time, when you open the doors to fans and you let 18,000 people come into the building. All of a sudden you have all that body heat, and you have the doors open, so you have heat coming in from the outside. That is the big struggle for an ice maker. Well, they're not going to have that. There's not going to be, there's going to be a couple hundred people in the building, and they will, I would imagine they'll limit the number of doors that can be open, and it'll be, they'll be open for 15, 20 minutes and then shut. So they're very confident that these are state-of-the-art buildings, really good buildings. The ice in Edmonton is always, it's been known to be excellent. They will have the local ice crews, so the regular ice crew that does, the ice in Edmonton, and the ice crew that does the ice in Toronto, plus Dan Craig, who's in charge of ice conditions for the National Hockey League, and Derek King, who's another one of the guys on that crew. They'll be going back and forth, and if they have an issue, they'll be involved. They've made ice, outdoors. They have think of the Stanley Cup final they had in Dallas in around 1999, 2000. They've dealt with these situations before. This might be some of the best ice we've ever seen.
Oh, let's listen in for a little bit here. Of course, for the Golden Knights, one final scrimmage, one final training camp session here at Summerlin Hospital Rink, as we listen in to what it sounds like down at ice level, courtesy of the Next Gen Cam. Our training camp bulletin, courtesy of Station Casinos, continuing from Summerlin Hospital Rink. Dave Gosher along with Gary Lawless, the final tune-up for the Golden Knights before they head to Edmonton and the bubble. Some things I still want to get to with the insider.
All right.
So the Golden Knights have some decisions to make.
Yes.
They're going to have to cut. Looks like 3 players. You would have probably seen earlier in our stream Logan Thompson, the new one of the new signees, goaltender for the Golden Knights. A lefty, so he's a southpaw. He's the one with the right-handed catching glove. But they're going to have 3 cuts to make, so they still will have to trim the roster a little bit. There's been a lot of discussion, Gary, throughout this camp on how much Peyton Krebs has impressed here. Of course, the Golden Knights' first-round pick from the draft just over a year ago.
Yeah, we haven't had any behind-the-scenes conversations with management regarding Peyton, but you can kind of just by looking at how he's been involved and where he's been involved, read the tea leaves. I think he's made the team. And as a bubble guy, I mean a depth guy, I don't think he'll be. We kind of have a pretty good idea if Max Pacioretty is healthy, what the game lineup will look like, and there'll be some extra forwards. I think. 2 extra forward lines, 6 extra forwards, and then and 4 extra defensemen. So those players will skate, separately. I would imagine at the event, or maybe a couple of them would skate with the main group, depending on where a guy's health is, and if they think a guy might have to step in. But I think Peyton Krebs has come here and. They don't have a ton of offensive depth. With Cody Glass injured, they didn't bring Brandon Peary to camp. All due respect to Reed Duke, Keegan Colasar, Patrick Brown, those types of players, they're not offensively gifted at the same way that Peyton Krebs is. So if you get an injury in your top 6, I think he has to be a consideration. And maybe it's not the first injury. Maybe the first injury in the top 6. You move Nick Waugh up and you put Nosek into your bottom 6. But if you go deep, one cut deeper, then I think you have to look at a player like Peyton Krebs, and he's going to be, he'll be a luxury for them, a nice piece of depth if they get injured, if a skilled guy gets hurt.
So if you use that math, you get 2 extra lines and 2 extra sets of D. So you're looking at 18 forwards, 10 defensemen, 3 goaltenders.
That's
as the 31. That the Golden Knights would take to Edmonton. We invite you to continue to send in some more questions. If you have any, we'll be with you for a little bit while longer in our stream, of course, on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. This will be our final live stream, and then, of course, as the Golden Knights get up into Edmonton and get settled on Sunday and then throughout the week, of course, that first going to be here before we know it. That first exhibition game against the Arizona Coyotes coming up on Thursday. With an eye towards opening night, Gary, 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yes.
And we've touched on all the work the NHL has been able to do to really make use of the extra space they're going to have in these arenas with no fans and 32 cameras and the LED screens. And what's opening night going to look like?
Yeah, well, I would imagine there we'll pay tribute to frontline workers. From the pandemic, I think there will be an element involving the social justice movement that we have right now, Black Lives Matter, and from that part of the conversation going on the globe right now, and it'll be a show and it'll be a celebration of hockey. Steve Mayer, who is the Chief Content Officer for the NHL, he's the guy that's in charge of putting on the shows that you see at the Stanley Cup. So, for instance, when the Stanley Cup was in Vegas, and the Killers, when they took part, did I get that right?
I think Imagine Dragons.
Imagine Dragons, when they played, when they were on the ice. They're both Vegas bands. I was close.
You weren't wrong. They're both Vegas bands.
Yes, Imagine Dragons, when they were on the ice prior to, I guess it was Game 1.
Yes.
That sort of stuff. That's Steve Mayer. That's his touch. He does a ton of stuff with the outdoor games, obviously, as well. He's a fascinating guy, actually. I listened to a podcast featuring him. Listen, if it hadn't been George Strait on the ice, I would have known that, all right?
I know you would have.
I'm dating myself.
Yep.
He's worked in television for a long time, in television production, and he's just a real creative guy. So, but listen, I'm tuning in. Like Tuesday, I think, is the first exhibition game.
Yep.
I'll be watching from then until the very end, and I'll be watching for the hockey. But if you're interested in seeing a great show, I think that'll be there as well.
The NHL is with a lot of different leagues now in terms of using player data, right, Gary? Player and puck tracking data.
Yes.
How do they plan to utilize? Will this serve as an opportunity to even take that a step further?
Well, they had committed to use it for the playoffs. They won't from the start. They've just had too much to do. So they are hoping, however, that once the games start, that they can kind of, turn their attention to something else. And perhaps by the conference final or the Stanley Cup final, they'll introduce some of this player and puck tracking data. If not, Bill Daly said this morning that we'll see it when the league starts, when the regular season starts next year, for sure.
So the Golden Knights looks like kind of trickling towards the end of everything here at Summerlin Hospital Rink. They've been at this for a while, quite obviously. Through phase 1, through phase 2, now phase 3. One maybe final thought, Gary, and I thought it was a good question on this conference call earlier today. What's this going to be like for the referees?
Yes.
We know what it's been like for the players and getting ramped up to restart this, but what about from an official standpoint?
Well, it's going to be really hard. They haven't been on the ice the way the players have, and basically they're going to have, normally you have all season long. You have the preseason and then the 82-game regular season, and then they pick the best of the best to participate in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Because, listen, a penalty in this tournament that results in a power play goal late in the game is a lot different than one on a Tuesday night in Columbus in February. Okay, this is not the same ball of wax. They're going to have to go from 0 to 60, and there's a standard that the players expect the referees to call the game at, and to just keeping up too. Like that's the players are all in tremendous shape right now. Everybody's healthy. It's going to be fast. The referees, they've worked out, but they haven't really skated. And they're going to skate a little bit in Edmonton, Toronto in the next couple of days leading up to the exhibition games. But for them to be at the same pace as the players, and they have to be. You got to keep up to be able to make the right calls. It's going to be a challenge. That is one area that that we'll keep an eye on early on.
The Golden Knights have not played a game that's mattered since the 9th of March in Edmonton, of course. That was the overtime winner for Shea Theodore that night, and then everything changed on the 12th of March in Minnesota. The team flew back later on that day, basically been here in Vegas ever since. But now that's going to change here soon, Gary. We can't wait. They'll get up to the bubble, up to Edmonton, and get things going. It's certainly, for all of us that miss live sports, this cannot come fast enough.
Well, there is an energy that when we get on the plane to go on a road trip, that there's an energy amongst the players. Like they're going on a business trip, and they're going, and it's kind of like they're Vikings. Like they want to go and sack another village and get the gold, and then get out of town and move on to the next one. They're excited when they go on the road. And when you in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's you remember like flying to Winnipeg to start that series. There was a real buzz amongst the group, and Sunday's flight to Edmonton. We won't be on this one. It'll be fascinating to. We'll get some footage hopefully from that, because there will be a vibration amongst that group, and it's from the top of the plane, like the chain from McPhee and McCrimmon to DeBoer and his staff, right through to the players. It will be something to see, and you're right. I can't wait for the games to start, and I can't wait to watch the Vegas Golden Knights play again.
Well, their quest for a Stanley Cup in 2020 will begin here shortly. First step is heading to Edmonton to get into the bubble, then the preseason game against Arizona on Thursday, the 3 round robin games, and then what they hope will be a run to the Stanley Cup. The Golden Knights wrapping things up here at Summerlin Hospital Rink. We will wrap things up as well. A big thank you to all of us for joining us on our live streams, and for all of us, everyone behind the scenes and everyone that's helped make this possible. It's been a lot of fun. We'll certainly have more shows as the Golden Knights get inside the bubble and get going on their quest for the 2020 Stanley Cup. Our training camp bulletin presented by Station Casinos. Thanks for tuning in. We will talk to you soon as the Golden Knights head to Edmonton and get ready for the 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs.